Shh, it works. Quiet. Let's see if it goes on. All right, looks like we're on. All right, let's get that down. Let's record this bad boy. All right, I think that should about do it. Let's make sure that we're on. We are. It's good. We're live,
All right.
and it's Wednesday, so it must be Whiskey Wednesday. All right. Yay! All right. About do it. Let's make sure we're on. Let's see. That's we are. There we go. To take that down so we don't get an echo here. The only echo now is inside my head. Um. All right. Well, hey guys, we're gonna do a special Whiskey Wednesday tonight. It is a little bit different. I have 40 people in front of me or close to it. I get well, let's see here with us from Penelope. Do we say Penelope Bourbon? We say whiskeys. What do we say?
It's kind of like Facebook. Sometimes you say it used to be the Facebook.
The Facebook.
So we were Penelope Bourbon, and sometimes we're just Penelope.
Well, that's good. All right. I just want to make sure I have you up. Which that one says Randall on it, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm okay. I'm good. I just want to make sure I had you up.
There we go.
We're good. We're good. All right. And I don't know if everybody knows the Penelope story because it's you guys come at this the whiskey industry from just like, hey, we like whiskey
Yeah.
angle, which is a little bit different than a lot of other people do. So how did you guys get into this business?
I mean we drank bourbon, we drank whiskey,
That's how most of us get in this. Yes.
like most of you in here too.
Yeah.
And you know, one day my buddy, I grew up with him, his name's Mike Palladini. He found out him and his wife were having a baby girl, and all of a sudden he put two and two together and he said Penelope Bourbon, and they were going to name her Penelope. So
I thought they were going with bourbon.
Yeah.
But that's a different story. That's a different story.
So all of a sudden he says Penelope Bourbon, and he was like, that sounds like a great name for a whiskey company. And he calls me, says, hey, you know, we're pregnant, and he said, I want to start a whiskey company, a bourbon company.
And that's usually what people do when they're going to have a kid. Just
I know he was
yeah, drinking heavily. Yes,
I think
drinking
so.
heavily. Yes, but
it's kind of it's like the weight of the world's off your shoulders a little. Like you did it, I guess. I guess he was excited, and it was just like new adventures, and he wanted to start the bourbon company, and he was like, all right, do you want to come with me to a distillery? I already got a meeting set up, and it was a distillery called MGP. At the time, I never heard of it, even though like probably half the stuff I was drinking was from there. And I said, yeah. I mean, since I've known him,
who would say no? No, I don't
Yeah.
want to go see a distillery.
and I learned early on in life with him. I mean, if he had an idea or he wanted to go do something, it usually turned into a pretty fun time. And going to a distillery sounded
What's the worst that could happen?
the same thing. But yeah, I had known him since like fifth grade. We were next door neighbors growing up, and so we went to MGP on July 12th of 2018, and we really didn't even have an idea. We didn't know what we were even there for. I mean, we knew we wanted whiskey. We knew we wanted to actually do a bourbon, but we were just kind of two guys from New Jersey that had no business being in whiskey, I guess, at the time. But it was exciting, you know. It was one of the biggest distilleries I had been to, and we walked in and we sampled every single mash bill basically they make of the bourbons, and eventually, you know, just we thought we were going to take this mash bill and put it in a bottle and call it Penelope Bourbon, and that was it. And while we were there, like the consumer side of us took over, and we were like, like I don't really like that specifically, and this one is a little too weak, whatever. And my buddy Mike, he's more of a rye drinker. Like he likes the rye spice and that
Yeah.
stuff. I was always like kind of like a weeded bourbon or like something on the sweeter side. So we were going in like two very different directions. And at the time, the guy at the distillery was like, you know, why don't you blend? And we were like, Yes.
Why not?
All right. So we actually sat there and we started blending together different bourbons. And at the time, if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have done what I did then. And we started blending three different mash bills together. It was a 99% corn bourbon, a
Yep.
45% wheat bourbon that they have, and a 21% rye bourbon. And when we put it together, I remember we both looked up and we were like, "Wow, that's pretty good." It was just different, and we didn't realize at the time, but like putting those three bourbons together because of the grains created this 4 grain blended bourbon,
Right.
and it kind of set us apart. Again, like I didn't know it at the time, but when we started selling it, it kind of set us apart for the other MGP product on the shelves at the time
Mm-hmm.
that were more, either the 45 wheat or the 21 rye. Uh, and it was kind of like off to the races from there. So we left the distillery that day and we were like, oh, we just created the best bourbon.
Ever.
And then we were like, oh, maybe we're just too drunk. So
Why can't it be both?
I know. So we got the sample in the mail a couple of days later and we sat down again and we were like, yes, it just feels right. And the fact that both of us liked it, I think really kind of was a testament to the blend as well. And like after that day, we thought it was just off to the races. This is going to be easy. Let's go get a bottle. Let's get a label, you
Mhm.
know. And then we were like, oh, we need a liquor we need a license with the TTB,
Yeah.
the whole thing. And at the time, like we didn't have, you know, we didn't have like
They
crazy
didn't have a
amounts.
lot of money to
Yeah.
make a little.
Yes. It was like it was like, well, how much do you have? Well,
Right.
she's like, well, I got here, how about $100? I remember we walked in the distillery and we acted like we were gonna buy a lot of barrels, like thousands, and they were all
Fake it till you make it.
yeah, they were so excited. And then we put our first order in, and we were like, we want one of these, one of that, and one of that.
Yeah.
And they were like 3 barrels. You want to buy 3 barrels? We're like, yep. And because there were two things. We knew we were gonna make mistakes, out of the gate. Like any business that I've started, like you just kind of stumble along until you start getting in the groove, right? And you figure out your pitfalls and you just get over them. But you don't want to go in too heavy, Like
Yeah, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like I guess it's like poker. We were at the Encore last night.
Yeah. Yeah, he lost money. I can tell right now. I'm looking over at him right now. He totally lost money.
But so, and then that's really the birth of the company. And then I mean, I could tell you story after story of just pitfalls. And, if you see batches 1, 2, 3, probably 4, like don't buy them. They suck. But like, I remember our first bottle came off the line, our first bottling run, and we learned a hard lesson that day. Always ask what they were bottling before they bottle your bourbon. And it was they were bottling a flavored tequila, a jalapeno flavored tequila. So
And there's always some in the filter, and if they don't change the filter, guess
yeah,
what?
and
I have jalapeno tequila flavored whiskey.
Right, it was crazy. And then so we got a meeting with the distributor, and we brought the bottle and we poured it, and they're like, tastes like jalapeno. We're like, no, I don't think so. It tastes like bourbon, right? So
Nope.
we didn't get the distributor agreement, and it was probably the best thing that happened to us because it forced us to go get our own wholesale license in New Jersey and literally sell it out of the backs of our car, like The Sopranos.
Nice. It's always the way to do it.
So
And listen, when you first started coming in and dealing in Massachusetts, like I don't know how many times like I was just making like basically calls to Mike and saying like, well, what do you got? Like it was really funny because it was like it was a new company. I tried some of the stuff and I really liked it. And it was like, well, we did this run, but it only produced like, I don't know, it produced 100 bottles or it produced 90 bottles. We don't know what to do with it. Well, send me a sample. I tried. Yeah, I'll take it. And like this is how we were doing business together. And this is how we started doing business together is that I was just I was actually buying several at a time and they were just things that were like this is we didn't make enough to sell it anywhere else, but like to maybe one store.
Right.
And those are the ones that I was buying, and people were liking them, and we just kept going.
Right.
And so that's sort of how like our relationship sort of happened. I was just buying stuff willy nilly because I liked it, and who knew it was going to blow up to what you guys are doing today.
And I felt like that was really when things started to start clicking for us. We actually ended up getting our own facility in New Jersey. It must have been no bigger than this room. It was like 2,000 square foot warehouse. And because early on we realized that you need to touch the barrel. You need to be a
Yeah,
little
you got to be
you
involved.
got to be more connected. Like, and as we were like learning the blending process, and we were getting good at it, and then curiosity took over, and it was like, well, oh, now what if we blend these mash bills, and what if we put it into this cask, and what
Right.
if we do all this, and that's kind of like the product of what you were having those discussions
Right.
about, because one, we couldn't afford a tank that was more than 250 gallons.
Exactly.
So all of our batches were pretty
Tiny.
small,
Right.
and that's early on that we came out with a toasted series, which is we do a blend and we put in new American oak, different char levels and toast levels. But a lot of our early batches that we could only send to like, one state because of our
Yeah.
tank size. So we started coming up with these like state batches essentially.
Yeah. I mean, we had one architect called French toast.
Yeah.
Because of the toasting and what barrels
Right.
you guys are using. And so it's just sort of now we're sort of like you guys have done like, you did the Barana cast, you did like all these other stuff, and the ball is now rolling and stuff like that. And now you're working with you're working with the big boys,
Yeah.
right?
Put my big boy pants on.
Yeah, there you go. So now what is happening, and you guys are being part of this, and this is really sort of the first go around of this new sort of endeavor that Penelope is doing, which is the Project X experience, right?
Yeah. So
And that's what you guys have. That's what you're going to be involved with today, and that's what we're going to do. So tell us about tell us now what is the Project X.
Project X is really just sort of like an experimentation sort of process. Like we said, when we had our 2,000 square foot warehouse in New Jersey, we were just kind of experimenting with random things that different finishes, barrels, blends, all
Well, it's
that
also
stuff.
what you can get your hands on too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Project X is a label that we can like kind of share our R&D with everybody. And these first three finishes have been in the making for a while. I was explaining earlier, when we first started exploring finishes, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, these were our first finishes that we were exploring, and they were just kind of classic sherries, Olorosa sherry, PX sherry, and a cognac, and they were delicious. But at the time, we didn't want to release one of them because we were a new company, kind of building ourselves, and we needed to stand out. And then we found these rosé wine barrels, and we came out with our first finish, which is a rosé cast finish. So fast forward, we've done all these other different finishes, like these Valencia barrels, which are these orange Spanish orange wine barrels, sometimes called VDN. Uh, we've done Tokai wine from Hungary. So I just kind of wanted to like kick it back to the beginnings a little and do sort of what I consider like a classic sort of whiskey finish, which is sherries and cognac,
Okay.
and see how good we could do them.
So what do we? I know we got the finishes. What are we starting with the bourbon itself? Are we starting with like when you're putting them in these barrels? Are they already a couple of years old and you're doing them longer? How long are you finishing them for?
So
Or does it depend?
I wanted to kind of replicate our process and like what I do with our finishes. Usually when I'm exploring finishes, I create a control blend and then I put that control blend in different finishes because I want to see how it's always good to have a comparison, right? And have that control. Excuse me. But so what I'm using in here is a blend of three bourbons, so it's like our 4 grain bourbon that we put out, but it's a specific group of barrels, specific batches. So kind of go in and curate the blend to whatever I feel like that blend should be at the moment. based on those barrels.
So would these all be the same blend of bourbons?
Yeah. So the whiskey.
So the only difference is the finishes.
Right.
That's
and
so
it's
cool.
kind of it's interesting to just see the nuance. The nuances that you are tasting is purely just the finishing cask. So you can kind of put them apples to apples next to each other and see what you're getting out of them.
Okay, so tonight you guys are going to help us pick the next barrel that we're going to be doing from Penelope, which is going to be part of the Project X. So in front of you, right, in slot number 1 is going to be the Oloroso finish. Slot number 2 is going to be the cognac finish, correct? And slot number 3 is the PX finish, Pedro Jimenez, which is a sweet dessert sherry. Oloroso is usually on the drier side. We have a fourth in front of you. That is not part of that. This is something special you're going to get to try tonight. So just put that aside for now. Concentrate on those first 3. So yeah, don't down these, because you're going to want to go back and forth. And we're going to go one by one so you can just try it. And then we're going to start deciding which one of these we're going to take. Does that make sense? All right. So why don't you tell us about the Oloroso?
So the Olorosa is a Spanish sherry, and we'll bring the barrels over. Actually, the 2 sherries that you're tasting today, the barrels come from the same bodega. They were used for the same. They were from the same purpose in Spain, but they've had an average contact time of 10 plus years with sherry. They're out of a Solera system where they rotate the cask through.
These aren't runoff barrels where they just fill them, use them to season the barrel, and then basically goes to another barrel and it gets eventually thrown away and not consumed.
Exactly.
These are actually from a Solera system.
So within this program, they are from the same bodega or cooperage, and they so the variation between them is it's interesting to see the variation, because the variation is from the same sherry, if that makes sense. It's not that it's in the region and it's from this bodega or this bodega and they're bringing it together. And then the cognac side of it is we do pull from different sources in cognac.
Okay. All right. So just take a sip of the first one, just so you nose it, sniff it, start building your taste and smell memory on the first one, because then we're going to go to the second one, the one in the second slot, which is a cognac finish. Now, do you know where this cognac is from? Or is it just Indescript? They just send you cognac barrels.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But
so is everybody familiar with cognac, for French brandy, from a very specific area in France?
So we'll finish the cognac for somewhere between 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
Is it just checking samples, every couple of days, finding that sweet point to pull the liquid, get it into.
And that's basically it. You're really, it's not so much of how much time it's going to spend in there. Mm-hmm. It's the amount of what you want it to sort of taste like.
Yeah. There's so many variables that affect the finishing times.
And you can keep going longer, and it's just all your finishing time is sort of done after a couple months anyways. Mm-hmm. And then it's aging.
Yeah.
And it's getting integrated and all that stuff. But it's not really getting anything more out of the cognac barrel of cognac, let's say.
Right. So with finishing barrels, it depends too. Sometimes you get a lot of barrel influence, so you get a lot of oak influence into the finish. But sometimes you get what they call oak neutral, where you've almost extracted all of the properties of the oak from the liquid, so you can put the liquid in, and you don't really get much of that oak back into the whiskey or whatever you're finishing. So I always find it's like trying to find that balance between getting that finish onto the bourbon, but also kind of balancing the oak influence on it as well.
I don't think what people understand too is, and I think it's us as consumers, maybe even Americans, I'm not sure which way it goes, maybe it's both, is we're constantly looking for extremes. We get peated whiskey. I want the most peated whiskey you can give me.
Right.
Or I want the most in beer. I want the most hops you can give me.
Yeah.
And those are really great, but they're not balanced products.
Mm-hmm.
and I always find that the one you usually come back to, the one you always taste, is something that what you're looking for is you're not looking for extremes. You're looking for balance. So you're trying to balance all of those flavors so that they're sort of harmonious.
Right. So with these, my goal was to make it bourbon first and then wine second. I mean, some of them have very strong properties here, but you still can tell that there's a bourbon backing to it, and that's what you're there for, and not the wine.
Get a Kentucky hug,
Yeah.
or as I like to say, it stokes the fire but doesn't choke the chimney.
These headsets aren't made for lefties.
Oh, I should have told you. You got to flip it.
Oh, okay.
Take it and flip it around. Yeah, it is. I should have asked you. I never asked you that. That's my fault. Yes, we always say if you're righty, you put the mic on the left side, and if you're lefty, you put the mic on the right side. I screwed you up. Sorry. You'll get over it. All right. So now, have you guys all sort of like familiarized yourself with the different whiskeys, the 3 different whiskeys? All right. What's that? Slow down. It's okay. We got like a good 2 minutes before we have to move on. So it's great.
So the blended mash bill, it's good to know that too, is still 74% corn in the blend. So it's still very corn forward. And then 8% rye, 15% wheat, 3% malted barley.
That's good. While I'm talking to them, I'm gonna fix this for you. I'm actually gonna give you another headset, but we're gonna actually flip it.
Oh no, it's fine.
Well, it's easy. Once you know what you're doing, here, just switch headsets and I'll switch you up here. Yeah, let me see the other headset. I'll get it out of your way. Now you can drink and talk at the same time. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. It was built for a lefty.
Well, like if you think of it, like power tools aren't made for lefties.
Right.
It's very dangerous.
The lefties should not touch power tools. No. I think that we've all established that. All right. They should not golf. I don't golf that often. And when somebody's lefty, I don't know where to stand. It just throws me off. I'm like, should I stand over here?
It is
I'm just like, where do I stand that I don't get hit by a club or a ball? Or a cart behind the cart? Probably the best spot. All right. So what do you guys here? We're gonna go through each of them, sort of see what you think. So what do you think of the first one, the Oloroso finish? Like that one? Yeah. I like the dryness. I like that sort of fruit note that you're getting. A lot of red fruit in that one too, but it's on the drier side. That's got a good balance. I also like the bourbon shows through. I mean, you're not losing the bourbon,
right?
And I think that's important.
I like that nutty finish.
That nutty,
on the back,
yeah, it's got the nutty back finish. All right. What'd you say, sir? You like that one? Yeah, you like number 1? Okay. You can taste what I'm going to repeat that so people can. It tastes like what makes Penelope bourbon. If that makes sense to anybody that's had Penelope bourbon, that's not a truer statement has ever been said. All right. So how about the cognac? It's got that spiciness and got a little bit like that, almost like ginger snap cookie. I get a little bit of that with that. I would almost compare it to like a rye.
Yeah, it's interesting what the barrel did to it. This is actually one of the this is a very polarizing finish that we have in this Project X. So somebody said Ambriana. Like a lot of people get that Ambriana note because of like that. I guess the deep cinnamons that come out of it. That's similar to the Ambriana. Right.
We weren't sure it was cognac. How much did he drink when he figured out that it was cognac? I can't tell. Kavork's over there going, no, I cannot tell. Give me another one. So Ryan, I tell you what, give me more, and I will tell you.
So there's a group of barrels within this cognac section that they were seasoned with Madagascar vanilla concentrate before they were used for the cognac.
Oh.
And then they only aged the cognac for 2 years. So it was a VS, right? That's the 2 year.
Yeah.
I'm a big cognac guy.
The cognac guy told me. Yeah.
But So when they come back, there you still have a lot of that like vanilla flavor in the oak, and it's amazing how it just freaking popped in this. So that was interesting because I also did like a 21 rye version as well, and it didn't come out like that.
Really?
Yeah, it was very subtle.
It sort of canceled each other out.
Yeah, I'm thinking like something with the wheat component.
Well, I always think
That
that
is
wheat gives like a
driving.
texture,
Hmm.
but it doesn't have as much of a flavor, so it lets the barrel character come through a little bit more, I think. And
Hmm.
that's why you get some of those sweeter notes because it's from the barrel, not necessarily the whiskey.
Right.
And I think, but everything I've had with like wheat in it always has a more like a deeper mouth feel to it too, like a more like a viscous maybe, but it has a different feel to it. All right,
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. Said as it is polarizing. Who likes the cognac finish? And who dislikes the cognac finish? Dislikes is sort of a strong word though, isn't it? What's
Yeah.
that?
Hmm.
Limousine oak. Who didn't like it again? All right, you're out of here. Security. No, that's okay. I'm not right now at this point. I'm just sort of gauging what you guys like or don't like. I don't really care which one you're gonna pick. You know what I'm saying? I don't care which one you're gonna pick right now. We're just tasting. All we're doing is tasting and enjoying whiskey. Is that okay with you, sir? Can we do that? All right, thank you. It overwhelms the bourbon character a little bit. Yeah, I can see where you say that, but it does. You say that, but it there's a certain synergy that is happening there though. That and the bourbon comes on and after it sort of fades out of the sweetness out of it. Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. This is sort of a what's that? Not turning it down. This gentleman is sleeping with it, but that's okay. He's not kicking it out of bed, so to speak. Really, right? He said polarizing. He nailed it. Some people like it, some people don't. Yes, Kavork. So they are a little bit different proofs. So the Oloroso was 108. The cognac is 108, and I believe this one was a little bit more. The
112.
PX Sherry, the last one you're gonna try is PX Sherry is 112. Now these are just basically blending proofs. You haven't brought these up or down. It's just whatever it came out as.
The blended proof was 112. I didn't touch the PX.
Okay.
I touched the cognac and the Olorosos.
You brought it down just
I
a little
brought
bit.
them down just a
A little
little,
bit.
and it opened it up.
And you could really taste the
Yeah.
differences. Okay.
I try not to do it when I don't
No.
think it makes it better, but
Yeah,
I
but if
just
listen, you're the whiskey maker, and
Mhm.
I always said like you need to do what you think is taste the best for your whiskeys. So I mean, it's not crazy. You brought it from 112 to 108. I
Right.
mean, there's nothing like and bring it to like 90,
No, yeah.
90 and drop more water. Bring it to 80 proof or anything like
Right.
that. It's tweaking it because you want it to taste like everybody's not going to be able to like adjust these anyways. So you have to do it where you think it's going to taste the best.
Right.
I
Like
think that's
just
very fair.
adding a little bit, just like especially with the Olorosa, it like dropped out a little bit of that. It was like the dry note was like a little too overpowering,
Yeah.
and it just kind of balanced it. It's all like you said before. It's all about balance.
Right. No, and that's the decision. Here's always funny. You have a rational explanation of why you did something. It's not because Route 108 ran through the front of our front of our house, and so it needs to be 108 proof, and it's sort of an arbitrary number.
Right.
It's where it tasted better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You didn't let marketing get involved.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So the last one we have is the PX. What'd you guys think of this one? I'll give it to New England. That's not bad. That doesn't suck. Guys okay, who likes that one? All right, who dislikes that one? It's not a scene where all right. Security, that guy. All right. All right. So now we're gonna sort of look at which one of these do we want to be our barrel that we're going to take. Now, I just pointed out that we've done this a couple times, and is the names of the barrels will sort of tell you where we're going. The first barrel we ever did in a big group like this was called Herding Cats. The second barrel, which was from Yellowstone, was called Lassoing the Wind. So sort of impossible tasks.
So what are you trying to say?
It's difficult for people in a large group to actually agree on anything. But we're gonna attempt our best. Just remember, if you like one of them and you want to buy all of it, I won't stop you. Danny will bottle it up for you. I'll give you a good price on it, and you can take it home. If you go against the entire the school of fish and where everybody wants to go, and you wanted to go on your own, I'll talk to Danny, and we can work something out where you can buy the barrel for yourself. But other than that, at the end of the day, I have to sell it to a lot of people. All right, there's going to be 20 cases of this. I can sell it to a lot of people, so I always reserve the right for the veto power. So if you guys go way off, I'm going to reel you back in. All right. So we're just going to do this. You can vote for more than one at this point. I always like to see this. This is always good. You ready? Who likes number one the best? Wow. Number one, the Oloroso Sherry. All right. All right. I just want to make sure you knew which one you were voting for.
Guess we know which one he didn't like.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah. How about the cognac? Well, still a pretty good. How about the PX Sherry?
Oh.
That's your number one, huh? That's pretty good. I like that. All right. So now we get. I would have to say probably the cognac is out, right? I think it's between the two PXs, the two sherries, the Oloroso and the PX sherry, right? So let's try 1 and 3 again. You notice they didn't argue with me when I told them to try more whiskey. Well, and you didn't pace yourself. All right. Oloroso? PX.
Wow.
All right.
That's like.
Did anybody still in for the cognac? Oh, yeah, still quite a few people for the cognac. Well, all right. I want to put you on the spot. The Aberana Rio. If you call it not Rio, that's your name. Not Rio. I'm going for not Kavork. Yeah. I get that. I get that sort of I get the reference to the Aberana cask, but I don't think it's as extreme as that. I don't think it's extreme as that. I get a lot of nice finish on it.
Right.
I get a lot of, there's a really nice finish to that. This is not one that I would be like so bold as to say, is that like, all right, I'm gonna say this to you, and I'm not saying this to you to be polite. There are no crappy whiskeys here.
Oh, good.
So,
all right.
You know what I mean? There's not. I don't. We get to a point. We do barrel picking. Is we talk about there's not a wrong answer. Okay, because there's not a wrong answer here. There isn't one. I'm going to ask you a question though. So, when we buy one of these, we get 20 cases. Now, I was told that I could get more of that. I could actually get 40 cases if I really like something.
Yeah.
Is it possible for me to get 20 and 20?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll do.
Is there a possibility of doing 20, 20, and 20?
Yes. Well, I'm here. Why not?
All right, so we're going to discuss this after
Triple X.
triple X. Well, we've already done a triple X, but it'll be something like that. It'll be rated triple X. Yeah, Penelope. See, that's what he didn't want when he named it Project X, sir. He didn't want that.
Or one with, right.
It's named after his, it's named after his partner's kid. Where's your mind, sir? In the gutter, obviously. What's that? It had vanilla in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Move it. No, because then people think I just need to move it. All right. What was his name? King what? King Julius. King Julio. All right. Maybe we're all right there. All right. We're going to discuss this after, but I think it's probably a possibility if you guys, but you guys, would you want to get all three? All right. So the group, let me ask you a question. The group that's here, you already own a bottle. What I would do is at the same price that you want, I'm not going to say this on these guys that are listening to us, but here's what I would do for you guys here that are helping us get through this. Would you want to get the other, if I sent you an email for the other two, would you want the other two? Well, you would want all three. You wouldn't want all three? Security. Yeah, no, and by the way, the reason why I've sort of put Danny on the spot on this too is these are one of the things that Randall and I and John always talk about is to start showing you like these are the same. They started with this. Danny started with the same whiskey. This is just an exercise in finishing, right? And where that goes when you start playing around with that. And I think it's really cool, especially when you guys have friends over and stuff like that. Go, this is the same whiskey, but here's 3 different finishes. And now you can sort of see, and you're going to have a favorite. You might have one you like better than the other and stuff, but knowing that you're starting from the same baseline of all these, I always find that very, very interesting. Sometimes we do like sister barrels that sat in the rick house. They were the same distillation, from the same barrel batch.
Right.
They sat next to each other in the rick house, and then you open them up.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. Couldn't be more different. Right. We've done one of those with Russell's. We had Funk and Soul.
Oh, nice.
And those were the 2 barrels, and they were just sister barrels, and they couldn't have been further apart.
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting to do.
It really is.
And I think it's interesting to do at home and show people too, that when you're getting people into it. And just because you don't like, maybe one of them is not quite your favorite, it's still a great exercise to do. And I'm really, if they'll let us do that, you got to remember there is only a certain amount of barrels that they're doing this way. And these are the first 3 finishes that are coming out. You'll have all 3. So, we'll talk about that afterwards, but I think that's, if you're amenable to that, I think that's what we'd like to do.
I say yes. If you look that way, he's going to say no, but
I'm not.
Don't look that way.
I just won't look that way.
Exactly.
Listen, I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
No.
Yeah, Kavork is always going to ruin this. What, Kavork? Yeah. We had a T-Splend we did with Compass Box was actually finished in different, it was the same blend finished in different whiskeys, different barrels. And that was like super interesting to do it that way. And everybody liked all the, there was different things you liked about the different ones. And I'm going to also tell you, by the way, that I know you don't have any left, sir, but you'll notice like as we've been pouring these, because they were just, we just opened them. I think you opened them today. Yeah. So just opened them today. These will actually all change just a little bit as we're going along. And when you go back to retry them, also you're going to find stuff that you didn't like it. And by the way, I didn't have you put any water in these. And you're free to do so. And usually when we pick barrels, we'll take we'll do a 50-50. We'll actually match what's in the glass with that same amount of water to see if there's any flaws. I can tell you right now that there hasn't been a hint of a flaw in any of these whiskeys. So I didn't do that. But if you want to see how it changes, Danny put the other ones down to 108 because he felt that that's where they tasted the best. But you might like that better at 100. So just remember that too, that they're going to have a different. What's that? No, none of them come off hot. I don't think any of them come off hot. So would you guys want to do something like that? Do all three? Do the Trinity? The unholy Trinity?
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So we'll talk about that. I'm glad you all joined us tonight to try these tonight. I don't think that was. Am I cheating you by not making you pick one? No, he's like, no. All right. I just want to make sure because some people come like, oh, I want it to be part of a barrel pick, and they want to get it to one.
Right.
And I just sort of ruined that. But I think there's nothing. I never think that there's anything wrong with more whiskey. That's probably me. Oh, they all have to sell. Which one sells? No. They all have to sell, and and that's one of those type of things that we'll get through them, right? What's your question, Kavork? Do you move when you think it's done? Do you move it to a stainless steel?
Yeah. So when we're going through the samples, it's like, all right, this one's done. Then they dump it that day into a stainless steel drum.
So it doesn't change anymore.
And then so the samples that you got today is already in the drum.
Right. So they're not going to change like really much from what you're tasting. There's always a slight variation. If you've never done bottling, if you've never done that before, there's always a slight variation. But I've never seen one go like off the rails.
No.
You won't get that.
If it does, they were bottling jalapeno tequila.
Jalapeno tequila. Can we make it so that you don't bottle jalapeno tequila before you bottle these?
No. Now there are dedicated
lines,
dedicated bourbon lines.
What's your next question, Gavork? With the acquisition by MGP of Penelope, do you have a bigger like pot to start picking from?
Oh yeah, I think it was.
They're letting them do basically whatever they want.
It was. I think it was 2 days after the acquisition. I was at the gates of the distillery. Like, where's my key?
Where's my key?
So now I got keys to the distillery, and and the other great thing was that MGP also owns Lux Row and Limestone Branch, and we also, when we were before acquisition, we were also sourcing from multiple Kentucky distilleries as well. So it's been just kind of a hodgepodge of being able to use these ingredients to just do special projects or blends or.
Yeah, but that's sort of why they acquired you, is to basically do the innovative branch of their business.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. They call me the garbage man.
Yeah. in a nice way.
In a good way.
In a good way. No, but that is part of it. So you don't have like carte blanche to sort of go in and try different stuff and make stuff, do you?
If it's as long as somebody
doesn't say no.
As long as it's owned by MGP, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a whole new world opened up for you.
Yeah.
You feel like the Little Mermaid.
A little bit. Well, it was great. I built my career off of blending, 4 to 6, 7 year bourbon. And then so after acquisition, it was like, now you have access to 10+ years stuff.
What's the sort of average age of the blend? Do you know?
These are 4.
Okay, 4.
So these are all 4s.
Okay.
Especially when blending the 3 different mash bills, I like the 4 to 6 stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're more grain forward than oak influence. So you almost have more control over like your profile destiny because of the grains. It's not, once you get a lot of different oak intensities,
the wood starts taking over.
Yeah. And that's been the challenge with our 10+ stuff is like, okay, now there's a lot of oak influence, and it's like sort of learning again a new kind of
like work around it. So
Yeah.
it's not, it tastes like a, a church pew.
Right. And again, it goes back to just finding that balance.
Yeah.
And in the early days of Penelope, when I was learning the blend, it was all just like throwing darts at a dartboard. Like the more times you throw the dart, then you're bound to hit a bullseye. So maybe if I was working on a barrel strength blend, I'd be like tinkering and coming up with 80, 90 different iterations of a blend, and then over the years, it's like now I can get to that same. It used to take me a week and a half to come up with a blend.
Right.
And now I can come up with a blend in like half a day.
Right.
Because it's just like,
you know where you have to go. You know how to get there.
It's like muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
And so learning the 10+ year stuff was like starting over.
Starting all over. Yeah. All right. So the one thing that we have for you tonight, there's a fourth whiskey tonight. If you hadn't noticed, he's already drunk it. I knew it. So the fourth one, I think we put it in slot number 8 or something like that. This is not out yet. This is coming to Massachusetts, right?
Yeah.
And what is this one?
This is we call it weeded. It's a 4-grain blend of 3 different mash bills. So it's like our regular 4-grain, that white label that we have. If you guys know Penelope. And it's sort of like our barrel strength, our red label, which is also a 4-grain blend of 3 different bourbon mash bills. But this is just blended a little different. I use more of like the 45 wheat mash bill barrels. So I drive that wheat component up a little bit. It's not like exorbitant, but when you're blending 3 different mash bills, even just like a couple percents kind of change everything. And then also it's at 95 proof. So we came out of the gate with a 80 proof straight bourbon when we started, and then we went to the other end of the spectrum and we came out with a barrel strength, and there was like no middle ground. And so this has been in the making for a long time. It was just as we were growing, we didn't have the capital or the inventory of those mash bills, because the 99 corn and the 45 wheat are pretty obscure mash bills out there. They don't make it, and they haven't made it like they made the 21 rye bourbon at the distillery. So it was hard for us to
get enough product
to do it. And then also, like, over the years, we do these small batches of this, and I would keep it in my house. And every time, like, my stepdad would come over, he'd be like, "Where's that 95 proof?" It
became a house favorite.
Yeah, and my other friend would come over and be like, "Where's that 95 proof?" And so I always wanted to make it, and we could finally do it now. So I was excited to get it out there. I think people are gonna like it. It's you know what it is? It's like it's that middle ground between the 80 and the barrel. Barrel, you're sitting there and you're like looking at the nuances, and each batch is a little different.
Right.
And then the 80 is very light. It's great. It's great for parties. It's great when you just kind of like want to put some back. This 95 is like a great sort of everyday, and it's got this.
It's delicious, by the way.
This.
What do you guys think? Yeah.
It's got this lingering finish.
What's that? I want 3 bottles. Is he selling out of his car tonight?
But the finish
the
on
ABC
it kind
says
of
no.
Sticks around.
Yeah. Now, what is this going to be? Once it gets here, is this going to be pretty much available?
It will eventually. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna have some stop starts for the beginning, and then hopefully.
Well, he doesn't want stop starts, but I could tell you it probably will be.
Well, the salesman's over there. No stop starts. Keep going. But this is really good, and I think this is going to be a favorite.
And then also,
this is not crazy price though either. Like $35, under $40. Let's just say. Well, I know our wholesalers, so I'm just gonna say under 40, right? But that's good.
Yeah, and that was the other reason why we could never release it, because we were sourcing at the time, and we knew it. That it has to. We always wanted to put out a good product at an affordable price, like
right.
And we couldn't get to that point before.
Now you can. Right now you can. Now you have enough product to do that. All right, I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. We really do appreciate it, and I want to thank Danny for being so. I just got him in so much trouble. Anyways, I'm going to say goodbye. You guys stay here. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody on Facebook, and then we're going to start recording this thing. It was awesome tonight. You really should have been here. It was phenomenal. All right.